The Current changed hands and focus. The Express has folded for good. The Independent died and rose again. The Scope is getting bigger, and the Business Post seems to be doing pretty healthy. Now, with so much going on in the world of publications here in our city, the only thing that seems to be certain is that there is a market, but even that is changing. So joining me today to talk about the state that our newspapers are in is independent media consultant Geoff Meeker. Welcome to the show, Mr. Meeker.
Thank you for having me.
Now, just to start off, can you define for us, what is it that makes a successful newspaper?
Well, first and foremost, it's readers, because of course the revenue comes from copy sales in some cases, but mainly from advertising. And if you don't have a lot of readers, you don't have a lot of advertisers. It's pretty simple. Even if your ads are cheap, what's the point if you're not being seen by a lot of eyes?
So what is the role of advertising in a newspaper, especially in a free publication?
In a free publication, well, it basically pays all the bills. When you have copy sales, you got some offset of your revenue, but when you're a free publication, that pays everything. And you've got a lot of costs: the printing, the staff, the rent, the distribution system. You know, it's a tricky and it's a hard business.
And now, a lot of the free publications that we're familiar with here in the city, like, the Express, the Current, the Scope, Town Crier, a lot of them seem to have close to or very similar mandates. How is it that a paper can really carve out a niche in this city?
Well, most of them have the advantage of being fairly inexpensive to produce too. They're probably produced by 2 or 3 people working at a home office. The printing is not as costly as you might think, depending on your press run and the quality of the paper that you use. Newsprint is cheap. So the good news is you can start a newspaper for pretty cheaply. But if you don't get the readers, you won't get the advertisers. Being free doesn't guarantee people are going to want to read it.
So what's the key in getting the readers? Is there a visual attraction that people have to initiate? Or
for sure, it has to look good. It has to have good design, really good design quality, but also has to have good writing. And I think the short answer to that, and I'm getting now into the area of opinion here, but I think it's got to get noticed. It's got to have good writing, and no matter what it is, it's got to break stories. You can't just reprint press releases and recycle things that you see elsewhere. You have to break stories, and to do that, you've got to be a good old-fashioned journalist. You can't just say, I'm going to do a magazine now, and just put it out there. Well, you could do that, but it may not be any good. If you have even 1 or 2 or 3 good reporters who know how to maintain their contacts, you spend an hour a day calling people, saying, what's going on in your neck of the woods? And you offer information, you get information, and you have a publication packed with stories every week. That's what will really do it. There's other things to promotion, knowing how to maximize your promotion around it, but you got to have a good product, good reading.
It's true. Hey? It's all about the words when it all comes down to it.
Which I find very refreshing, and it's a good thing.
Now, is there a saturation point for the market? Is there ever too much? When do we know enough is enough in the paper industry here?
Well, when they start to close, it's a pretty safe bet. It's the same thing as video rental places and corner stores or whatever. If there's too many, they start to close up. And that's how it is. It's survival of the fittest, basically.
So now let's talk. I'd like to get back to the role of advertising for just a moment here with papers, and especially when it comes to free publications. I read actually on a comment that was left on your blog recently.
Yes.
That somebody had actually written that the Express, well, isn't it a folder for flyers? What advantage is there in providing flyers in a free publication?
Well, every publication owner would love to have those flyers, because they pay good money for the cost of slipping something inside it. They're really easy to accommodate. They're usually cheaper than buying your own postage stamp. That's the advantage of them. They are great, and actually they have some reader value, because a lot of people will open the paper, take out the flyers, and look at each one. What it guarantees is the person who owns that business that prints the flyer knows that it will hit 50,000 households, 5,000 households, whatever. And it gets them inside the door. That's all they can ask. And then the rest is up to the person who opens it up and looks at it.
And now from what else comes to mind there, free publications, I'm thinking, is it attractive for advertisers to want to pursue business there? I mean, what is the relationship between free publications and the public generally?
Well, advertisers want, the ideal is an audited paid circulation, where you can say, here's my cover sales, I can guarantee you that I sell 25,000 copies every week, or whatever. That is what really helps you when you're selling your advertising, because you can demonstrate. If you give away your paper in a bunch of mailboxes, who knows that it doesn't become a fish wrapper flyer. You know, that's the issue. If you print a quality product and you know it's good, you've got good writing in there. I think a good example would be the Business Post. That's a free giveaway. But Craig Westcott is well known as a good journalist, you know, opinionated, researched. So there are situations where a free publication is also a good publication.
Now, is there sort of a ratio, a general rule about, you know, editorial space versus advertising space that as a key to a successful paper?
Yeah, when I worked as an editor, it was 60% advertising to 40% editorial. And as an editor, I hated it whenever we hit that, because my space was that much on top of the page and it wasn't fun to play with. But of course, it's a necessary evil. You need it to produce a quality paper, you know, to stay in business, basically.
A lot of people are saying lately that, you know, there aren't as many readers of newspapers lately. I mean, people are getting news from so many sources these days, if it's 24-hour news channels or, you know, on the internet, blogs, what have you. I mean, do you think that newspapers are still going to sustain their readership in the future? And what do you think is going to happen there?
I think it is declining. It already is. I think the numbers show that it's on a gradual downward slope. But they aren't going to disappear. They will continue to decline as our generation, perhaps even your generation, slowly fades from the scene. The younger generation, I've read research that shows that they rely on print very little for their information.
Now, you're an experienced writer both on the print side and on the blog side. What do you think is the main difference in how you're able to write for print and for internet blogs?
Well, I love the immediacy of the blog and the independence. I don't need to sell ads, and if I get an idea to write something, I write it, and within 20 minutes, it's on the internet, or 5 minutes. It's wonderful.
Now, I should add, I really do enjoy your blog very much, and we're going to put it up on the screen right here now so that other people can check it out. And you give a really good independent look at the world of media, or like, you know, the city's media. Mm-hmm. And but anyway, thank you very much, Geoff, for coming out and chatting with us today on the show.
I really enjoyed it.
Great.
It's fun.
Thank you. Well, once again, we have another song from the